Welcome back to the Wave Audio community. My name is John, and for this video, we continue our Wave Audio series on home theater amplifiers in 2022, and this time it's with Amplifier Technologies, ATI. We began this series with Monolith by Monoprice, which is an OEM product from ATI, and we finished this with the last video from Outlaw Audio with also an OEM from ATI. So this whole series started with, as we said, Monolith by Monoprice was the first video. The second video was from Emotiva. The third was ToneWinner. The fourth was IOTAVX. And the last one, as we said, is Outlaw Audio. And so this is the sixth installment, and the focus is ATI. And when we started looking at this, ATI makes a lot of amplifiers. I think about 36 different models, plus some distribution amplifiers, which we're not covering here, but 36 in scope, what we're putting into the Wave Audio database, which is available to our Patreons. So if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, that would really help our channel succeed. That's at www.patreon.com/ripewave. So we looked at this. They have several series. They have a Class D series, a Class AB series, a Pure Balance series, and a Signature series, and even sub-series within those series. So to pack this into one video, we decided that we would take a little different approach as we had done before, and kind of cover down for the series versus individual models. Which was really fortunate is there's such consistency within the series for ATI that this made it possible. So we'll go into each of these. The prices on these really are a little higher than what we've looked at so far, and we'll get into that in further as we go along. But let's talk about this company, Amplifier Technologies. When you look at Amplifier Technologies, you can kind of start looking at what was going on in 1967 with the founding of Scientific Audio Electronics, or SAE. And for those who have been following audio for a long time, this was a prominent brand through the 70s and into the 80s. That Morris Kessler was one of the founding members of. And in 1967, he released his first amplifier. The company SAE released their first amplifier, the SAE Mark II, and this was put out to best what was believed to be the top amplifier at the time, the Marantz Model 9, and some feel that he was very successful in that. So they went along through the 70s into the 80s and ultimately sold the company in 1988 to whoever but Giorgio Moroder, the producer for Donna Summer and others. And he didn't really do much with that. He closed the company after a year. And so that was really the end of at least the initial SAE. Morris Kessler didn't sit idle for long. He founded Amplifier Technologies in 1990, and with that, the first products that were put out was actually an OEM to Crestron, the CN-AMPX, and so that was launched, but that started a whole slew of other OEMs that ATI has been involved with, and I don't have a comprehensive list, but it includes Aragon, BNK, BGW, Adcom, Crestron, of course, Integra Research, Outlaw Audio, and Theta Digital. Some of these actually led to acquisitions. In 2003, ATI acquired BGW. In 2007, ATI then acquired Theta Digital, known for their high-end processors, and then 10 years later, they did similarly acquire Datasat Digital Entertainment, who also makes high-end processors for home theater and for commercial usage. So They have been acquiring companies along the way. Let's begin this review with the AT1800 series, which is a Class AB. And before when we first started looking at this, we would have assumed their Class D was their entry level. But looking at their prices, etc., really believe now that the 1800 series is their entry level model set. And these range from 2 to 7 channels available. And this is showing the back of the 7-channel model. Of course, if you go to the others, the 2, the 3, 4, 5, and 6, they'll just be depopulated version of the same layout. So what is interesting is that regardless of the number of channels, for all channels driven, these are putting out 200 watts of power. So that's consistent there. We don't seem to, even though they list in their literature a 4 and a 6-channel model, I can't find pricing for that, at least in US dollars. And rather than introduce some inconsistencies there, we're just going to leave those off there until we have confirmed data for the 4 and the 6-channel models. Regardless, these do start at $1,500 for the 2-channel model and take you up to $3,200 for the 7-channel model. And these were introduced in 2021. And if we look inside of this, we see a very modular approach for this Class AB design. Now the picture here in the larger inside picture is that of the 7-channel model, the fully populated model, and that has 2 toroidal power supplies in it. And you'll see that in the 5 and 6-channel models as well. For the 2, 3, and 4-channel models, there will only be a single toroidal power supply, and this is evident in the smaller chassis that is used for those models. So wherever there's a smaller chassis in the same series, you will only find 1 toroid. Now moving on to their next series up is actually their first entry into Class D amplifiers. And here they're using a Hypex N-Core module. And this series includes variants from 2 to 8 channels. So you can get an additional 8th channel in this Class D series. This is the 522nc series. And so the 522, which was introduced in 2016, and I believe they added the 2-channel model a little later in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But these do start at $2,300 for the 2-channel model and work its way up to $4,700 for the 8-channel model. Now, like the series before this, these are all 200 watts per channel, regardless of the number of channels in this, all channels driven. So that is a nice, easy way for you to kind of sort this out, that they're actually all the same power rating. Looking inside now, I don't have a really clear picture of this, but as before, you can see that there's 2 toroids in here that power these Class D modules. You get the 2 toroids when you're in the 5, 6, 7, and 8 channel models. So the models with 2, 3, and 4 channels of amplification only have 1 toroid. So that's the difference for the inside picture. Moving up to the AT540 series, you have actually the only single channel model in the whole ATI lineup. And so this is using the same Class D N-Core modules, but what they start to do in the 540 series, what they do is double these up for a higher power rating. So this one comes in at 500 watts for that Class D amplification, and this was introduced in 2021 and sells for $2,400. And of course, they put this into a smaller chassis because it does not need as much room inside, but it still has room for a toroidal power supply for this. Now, the 540nc series continues with 2 3 and 4 channel models. So these don't go up to the 8 channels because they are doubling up on the modules used. So 4 is the most that can accommodate that doubled up use of modules, because there's 8 in the 520 series uses 8 modules, and here when you double them up, that the most you can do is 4 channels, but it is doing it at 500 watts per channel, all channels driven, up to the 4 channel model. And these range in price from $3,200 up to $5,000, and these were announced in 2016. So that's using these bridged modules. And looking inside a 542, it looks very similar to the 520. And likewise, the 2-channel model of this is only got a single toroid. It uses a smaller chassis, but the 3 and 4 channel modules use that deeper chassis and have 2 toroids. Now moving up to the AT3300 series, this takes you back to Class AB amplification, and they make this series available in 2 to 8 channels. And this is this is their tallest chassis that they have, and I could barely fit this into the screen here. But for each of these channels that are driven, they give you 330 watts of power. And prices on this series range from $3,200 for the 2-channel model up to $7,100 for the 8-channel model. And these were launched, I believe, in 2016. I don't have a clear picture of the 3300 inside. I found what I believe it's his predecessor, the 3000 series, and we can kind of see the similar modular layout as we saw prior in the 1800 series. One can assume that everything's a little higher quality in this given the cost differential. And so a single toroid is used in models with 1 to 4 channels, and 2 toroids are used in models with 5 to 8 channels, I should say. Then we move up to their signature class. This is the AT4000 series within the signature line. Prior iterations of the signature line have bared Morris Kessler's signature on the front of it, but I think they've done away with that in this latest incarnation. But these 2 to 7 channel models start at $2,800 and work their way up to $5,600 and were introduced in 2015. These are all 200 watts per channel of Class B AB amplification. Looking inside, once again you see the modular design. In this case, the dual toroids carry out through the whole line, starting with the 2-channel model. And their flagship model line is the AT6000 series, which is also Class AB and is also 2 to 7 channels, and starts at $3,800 and works up to $7,500. This is a step up in amplification over the 4000 series, which was 200 watts per channel. These are 300 watts per channel amplifiers, and were introduced in 2014, which is the longest surviving in the current portfolio for ATI. Looking inside, it doesn't look any different. In fact, ATI does publish almost the same image for the 4000 and 6000 series. I'm not quite sure if that's an error or they do truly look very similar inside and they just change some circuitry and perhaps the quality of the toroids used. Not entirely clear on that. Now, to look at the whole portfolio together, you could see these use very similar design language throughout the whole series in the front, with the signature series having a little more strong look with the big handles on the front, not unlike what you might have saw on an SAE type product. Turning these around to the back, these all look similar, although for some reason they went to more of a silver finish on the AT3300. We can also see that the AT3300 is a little taller, slightly taller than the 6000 series there as well. And then looking at these all together from the inside, all very similar. All the Class AB amplifiers have that same looking type modules inside of them. And then all the Class D look like a very consistent language in there as well. For our specification overview here, we've again compressed these down to look at a whole series at a time, and thank goodness that ATI was very consistent within the series. So when we're looking at each series, they do have, for example, the same parameters for impedance and triggers, etc. So let's get into it. The impedance here, it's interesting that most of them use a 20 kilo ohm impedance, although their entry-level 1800 series has a 28 kilo ohm impedance. And their signature line, both the 4000 and 6000 series, all the products are 50 kilo ohm input impedance. One thing that we see across the whole portfolio is they only provide a single input trigger. There's no output trigger on this series. The input sensitivity is measured at 8 ohms, and for their lower end models, it's between 1.5 and 1.6 volts. As you work up, you get close or to or over 2 volts. The highest ratings coming in the D Class 540 series, and that brings you up to 2.35 volts on the input sensitivity. So those are the most sensitive models in the series. Now we've already covered the classes as the AT520nc and the AT540nc series are the only Class D. They use the Hypex N-Core NC500 modules, which we understand has been custom tailored to ATI's specifications. The only fully balanced and fully differential modules out there end-to-end are the signature series, the AT4000 and the AT6000 series. They all give you around 28 dBs of gain, which is good. Most of them have a load impedance of 4 to 8 ohms, although the signature series will go to 16 ohm speakers. Slew rate and crosstalk are specified. We don't see these values specified on many of the other brands that we've covered so far. We just put this in here for informational, but these are all respectable values of between 50 and 60 volts per microsecond on the slew rate, and crosstalk limited to negative 80 to 100 dB. I did find it interesting that the entry-level series, the 1800, had the best crosstalk of negative 100 dB. They only specify capacitance in their signature series. Of course, they want to show a differential between the other models, that these have good capacitance, so it's ready to go if there's a high dynamic passage. The 4000 series has 46,000 microfarads capacitance, and the 6000 series has close to 60,000 microfarad capacitance capabilities. Looking now at the output specifications, the 1800 series, the AT520, and the signature AT4000 are all 200 watts per channel, all channels driven for those models. The 6000 series goes up to 300 watts. It's interesting that the AT3300 series, which is not a part of the signature line, has a higher output rating of 330 watts. And then when you go to the AT540 series, we get the highest output with those at 500 watts. Now, I've read somewhere that ATI, their standard is to have the 4 ohm load rating at 50% higher than the 8 ohm, which rings true on a few of these models, but others like the 540, it's exactly the same or not quite 50% higher. And of course, these ratings are all measured conservatively using full range 20 to 20,000 hertz measurements. The total harmonic distortion, which these are measured, are all respectable, ranging between 0.02% and 0.05%. The signal-to-noise ratio, A-rated, starts at 120, and this is another thing I read, that that ATI traditionally likes to keep their SNR above 120, and that's where the entry level starts at. And then we can see the D-class modules bringing it up to 123 decibels, signal to noise, the 3300 at 125, and the Signature series tops off at 128 decibels. So certainly that's what you're getting with the flagship range. Now, the cost per channel, I had to break this down between different channel counts, because you do get some economy of scales. Now, whereas the other models, whereas the other brands we looked at, the Emotivas, the IOTAVX, the ToneWinner, etc., you have a lot of models out there that hover around $200 to $500 per channel. In fact, Emotiva even has those that dip down to $100 per channel, which is really economical external amplifier. With ATI, most models are over $1,000. There's a few that dip below. The most economical one that they have is in the 1800 series for their 7-channel amplifier, which it comes in at $456 per channel. So that is ones that kind of compete, but try to be a little bit more than these other brands that are out there. And even the Signature series, you can get a few models that are under $1,000 per channel, but it does start at $800 per channel. The interesting thing is the D-class is not necessarily positioned as value. The AT6000 series is certainly the highest cost per channel, all of them being over $1,000 per channel, up to $1,900 per channel with their 2-channel model. So there is definitely a premium on the ATI versus some of the OEM products that they make for Monolith and for Outlaw Audio. And we'll look at some of the other OEMs later on. As far as the dimensions, please note that when you do get into the higher channel counts for some of these models, the chassis size gets deeper there. So that's an important thing to look at. As far as the weight, even these D-class, because they have the toroidal power supplies, they can still be heavy. The lightest model that they have is the AT520, which is 36 pounds, 16 kilograms. But even in the D-class series, those you can get up to 65-pound models, 30 kilograms with the AT544. And you can go over 100 pounds for some of these products. When you look at the Pure Balance AT3300, that's for the heaviest model, the 8-channel model, that's 101 pounds, 45.9 kilograms. But it even gets heavier with the AT6000 at 140 pounds, 63.5 kilograms. And even the AT4000 is quite heavy. Now, I don't say these are good or bad to be heavy. Some of you are looking for lighter things to move around your racks. I understand that. But some of you don't mind. You'd rather have the higher quality sound. If it does truly translate into higher quality sound, you don't mind a little extra weight. So I'll let that for you to decide whether weight is an issue, but we have all the measurements here so you can make informed decisions. These all have removable power connectors. They all support 120 and 240 volt input line signals, albeit all the Class AB models, you have to make that determination at the factory when you order it. So you're going to either order this as a 120 volt version or a 240 volt version. The D class ones do have the luxury of being auto switch, will auto sense the line voltage and adapt. And we already pointed out that all these models use toroid power supplies, and some models have a second toroid if they have more channels, or if you're in the Signature series, they are all toroidal. Now, ATI does not publish a maximum power consumption for all models, but they do tend to use a lot of power. Even the Class D ones can use over 2,000 watts of power, and that's because they're all using toroid power supplies. So that concludes the overview here. What are your thoughts on ATI? Are you interested in them, or would you rather save a little more money and go to one of their OEM partners like a Monoprice Monolith or an Outlaw Audio? That feedback would be useful to the RipeWave audio community. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to this RipeWave audio community, and be sure to hit the bell icon so you'll be informed when the next video is posted. Until then, keep evolving your audio experience.